Today we're going to be talking about where is Zebec going to expand, how high possibly Zebec is going to have its next expansion, when and where. So let's just jump right into this. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? You guys are doing fantastic. Today we're going to be talking about Zebec, its price action. Where do we expect Zebec to be having a rally? Where is it going to top off more or less over the next coming weeks? Now, this rally that I'm talking about doesn't mean it's the final rally, but it is going to be one step closer to the finale. I do believe that we do have one nice solid expansion coming our way. And after that is going to be the big altcoin season that is going to be the definition of diabolical, but in a good and fantastic way. If you haven't ever experienced altcoin season, it is the craziest couple of weeks of your life. Your coin usually only pumps for 4 weeks, but the whole journey is about 8. The markets go crazy. The type of pumps that you are not fundamental. They are not normal, which is why they only happen, you know, once in a cycle practically, maybe twice if there's a double pump or something. But practically happens once every like 4 to 5 years for a reason. Okay. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, all right, let's just jump right into this. We are going to dissect the small price action that's happening soon, but I want to first talk about the possible expansion. So we can see that when we did, you know, have this rally over here, right? When we did have this nice rally, we take the top, right? We take a relevant top to the relevant bottom, which I would say is down here. And you can see that we expanded all the way to the 4.236 area, which is, by the way, a really bullish sign because 1.6 is underwhelming. 2.2 is very good, and it's usually kind of like the lower end of average. And then 3.2 is kind of like average, but on the higher end. And 4.2 is very, like, it's more on the rare side and exceeds expectations, but it is still possible, right? And we can see the pump we had was practically right to this key zone that doesn't really always happen, right? Like a high pump, a pump that's considered high for altcoins would be, pushing at 3.2, like maybe just a little bit above it, or in between 2.2 and just right below 3.2, right? Maybe somewhere, down over here, right? That's considered a pretty high and good pump. Okay, but we actually hit this 4.23 area. So it's very, very nice, right? Very, very nice. And I believe, over the next couple of weeks, few short weeks, we should be kind of expecting something similar. So if we take this tool from the top, right, because that's where we have to put the 1, and we take the 0 to the last relevant bottom, boom, right? The reason why I'm not putting it lower here is because this is a last relevant bottom, right? This was also pretty much a retest on top of this massive support over here. So it just makes the most sense logically, right? I expect for us to at least get to the 3.2 area. I might be thinking, well, isn't it harder to move price from where we are to like the 3.2, even like the 2.2 or the 4.2? Yes, because it's going to require more money. But you have to realize the context of the market right now is that even though Bitcoin is still the main player, I do expect for something like Zebec to be scaling really well. Not only is the demand high, not only are the partnerships amazing, not only is there a lot of exchange listings that are possible, but we know there's going to be more money in the markets. And we know sooner than later, it's going to start shifting from Bitcoin and all the Bitcoins to pretty much smaller coins like Zebec. And then the actual altcoin season is going to start. So I do expect for us to be hitting upwards of possibly 2 cents, right? It sounds crazy now. It sounds crazy now. But if I told you a few months ago, if we were somewhere in the middle or down here, that Zebec is going to make insane gains, right? Insane gains. If I told you somewhere down here that Zebec is going to have a 7 times multiplier, you may have not believed me, right? If I said it's going to have a nice, 4 times multiplier, maybe you wouldn't have believed me. Maybe if we were down here somewhere, maybe we sniped an entry, or if I told you it's going to go up 8.5 times, maybe you wouldn't believe me. Be like, nah, 8.5 times, no history has proven that, right? No history has proven that. But ladies and gentlemen, you have to realize if we look at something like Dogecoin, okay, I know it's a meme coin, and look, you don't need to like this coin, but the point is, I'm trying to make a point, right? This thing went from down here, right, down here to an insane pump to an even more insane pump to an even more insane pump to an even more insane pump. So if I told you based off the chart, right, if Zebec was somewhere, let's say in a similar boat, right? Let's say Zebec was kind of in this development stage, right? We're here, and I said, look, guys, I expect for us to go to the 4 point thing or 3.2. You'd be like, no, that's crazy, right? Like that's kind of high. But you got to realize other coins have done that, right? They've done that. They've exceeded expectations. And then even then, right, even then they have pumped once again. Because if we take it, let's say from this zone to maybe like down here, right, again, 4.2 exceeded. And then again, if you take it from, let's just say this top to this bottom over here, right, it didn't hit the 2.2 and stuff again, because at that point it was an insane market cap, but it had multiple pumps. So people think, like, oh no, it might not be realistic, it might be too thing, but it's like, no, ladies and gentlemen, you have to realize how crazy these markets are actually going to be getting over the next few weeks, over the next few short months. You also have to realize our market cap is not that bad in terms of expansion, right? If we go to something like Zebec right here, boom, rank 125, we can see 27 million volume, 435 million market cap, right? If I'm talking about potential 3.2 area, potential 3.2 area, right? Boom. Let's say from right here to here, that is going to be practically 3.75 times. Okay, 3.75 times is going to be what? Roughly 1.5 ish billion, right? More or less. I mean, what's 1.5 billion market cap for a coin nowadays? Yeah, that's always respectable. That's always decent. But you got to realize, with more and more money coming into the markets, with a serious coin like Zebec, right? We expect big pumps. Okay. So getting to 1.5 billion market cap, which would be around the 3.2 area, is not crazy, because then you have to realize when altcoin season does come, okay, like we could potentially be pumping 7, 6, 10, 15x from the 3.2, right? From the 3.2, which sounds crazy, right? If we take it, let's say here, let's say, I don't know, let's say the bottoms are going to be somewhere here, right? We might be seeing like such insane gains that, boom, we go past the Fibonacci tool. Because then in terms of market cap, in terms of the coin's value, the Fibonacci tool is no longer valid, right? You guys have to understand, the craziest of crazy moves happen for those 4 weeks for the coin. When your coin starts going, it's gonna roughly pump 4 weeks before it crashes. Okay. And yeah, it is insane. Let's look at the holders, ladies and gentlemen, before we start closing this video. We can see we are continuously growing roughly. I mean, it was a little bit slow. I mean, this is actually technically in the new day because I am recording at night. We can see we roughly grow around 100, 130 people per day, which is really, really respectable, right? Really, really respectable. And I expect Zebec to continue to grow. Listen, we are going to dive into the micro moves. We're not going to talk about it too much because not much has happened, because it is a Saturday. Listen, as of right now, at least on the 4 hour, there are still no indications of reversals, right? Very, very simple. We do have this support that got broken, right? Structure over here. We have a top, we have a low, we have a lower top, we have a lower low. We're seeing rejections right here. So it is possible that we will pull back, okay? That we will continue to pull back just a little bit more, right? It is very, very likely that, we are going to be retesting off the 4.4 or even down to the 0.004 once again, right? To go sideways before we continue our next leg up. We talked about in the previous video, we kind of expect to be going in a diagonal channel until we don't, and then we expect a reversal and another pump to then, contest these all-time highs. But yeah, that is ultimately it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys did enjoy it, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.